Hi, my name is Gabriella Saldana, and I did the Southwest Airlines social media response as my case study. So on the second slide, you see that I made a timeline of the events that happened the days following the crisis. So on July 20th, 2016, the Southwest computers failed, causing the airline to cancel and delay over 2,000 of their flights. That following day, at 3 p.m., the airlines began to send out apology tweets and public announcements providing their main leaders with informational reports. At 8 p.m. that evening, an announcement was made that it will be a few days until things are back up and running. The next day, July 21st, the airline streamed a Facebook Live that featured their chief operating officer as well as their communication advisor, explaining all the questions and concerns their customers had as well as the updates. On July 23rd, they stated that they would be taking full blame for the whole situation. The next day, they made their final update that all operations were back to normal. Southwest Crisis had three main publics. First were their customers who were on the 2,000 flights that were canceled or delayed. Second were all the airports around the country who used Southwest. And third were their employees that worked for either the airlines or the airports. Southwest was very concerned and immediately apologetic towards their public. This shows the quality of their relationships that they wanted to maintain with their customers. They wanted their customers to feel at ease, calm, make sure the questions were all answered. They always wanted to make sure they were in good hands. So they paid for all food, places to stay, transportation, refunds, rebookings of flights. The airline maintained a positive relationship by immediately apologizing and tweeting. They wanted their public to make sure they understood what was going on. This allowed the customers to feel more at ease because they felt like they cared. So, some strengths that Southwest showed was that they apologized within hours of the crisis beginning. They were extremely apologetic towards their public and took the full blame for what was happening. Also, they were the first major crisis to ever use Facebook Live as a social media crisis tool. It was watched over 803,000 times during the crisis and was given mostly positive feedback. The weaknesses shown by Southwest was that they did not answer all personal complaints that were posted on their social media pages. Like the comments that were posted by the individuals would sometimes get disregarded by Southwest. Some would get answered. They also guided their customers in different directions on what channels to report to for complaints. At first they would say Facebook and then they would say to DM somebody, so it confused the customers. And although the customer used a multi-channel approach, they did not choose to use Instagram to post anything about the crisis. And this was negatively impacting them because they have over 250,000 Instagram followers. Some opportunities for Southwest to improve is to make one account, maybe on Facebook or Twitter, that only focuses on complaints and questions. This will decrease the confusion that the customers have as to where to report to. Another good opportunity would be to include Instagram. The Instagram followers want to know what's going on. There would be a decreased amount of complaints if they covered all platforms. The several threats that Southwest could have potentially faced were computer systems failing. Again, that could easily happen. Other airlines can see how this impacted Southwest, and this can make campaigns against them, or they can make promo codes, specials, reduce their prices, and the people will more likely be flying with them and not Southwest. And also, their computers could get hacked by anybody, and also customers posting negative reviews on social media are always a negative threat to any company. Responses. They chose 3 different responses. First is the preemptive response, which was shown by immediately responding to the crisis, taking full blame and constantly apologizing. This prevented issues because they were able to respond before anybody publicly backlashed them. Vocal commiseration was used by the airline because they were completely compassionate and considerate towards their customers. They wanted to rebuild their relationships and knew how much of an inconvenience that they were giving their customers, so they fully compensated them for everything. Lastly, rectifying behavior was shown when the airline fully investigated what had gone wrong and then continued to update their customers every step of the way. They made corrective action by explaining how this would never happen again, and this is not how they wanted their company to be represented. On the next slide, you see communication tactics. They used face-to-face communication by doing Facebook Live. Their second tactic was organizational media, which was their most used tactic. It was their prime tactic of Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And then news media was not particularly used by Southwest themselves, but channels like ABC and Daily News covered the crisis. Timing. Timing was great for Southwest. They were extremely fast with updating and apologizing to their customers. And although they could not respond to everyone individually, when they did, they tweeted back to the customers within 3 to 12 minutes on Twitter, and Facebook was 45 minutes, which was extremely fast. Also, within 2 hours of the crisis happening, Southwest had a full plan for their employees to follow. In the key messages, Southwest was very consistent with their wording and phrases. This is under the use of language slide, where you can see that they often apologized, they updated the public, took full responsibility, said thank you, accommodated, and they were always using this vocabulary. And during the Facebook Live, the language used was very sincere, and even the tone of voice and facial expressions were calm, but showed that they had concern. On the ethical and legal issue slide, you see how Southwest showed honesty and loyalty because they fully admitted to the situation that they were all to blame. They were loyal by constantly giving updates and compensating the customers for everything. They fully provided a free flow of information. They held nothing back. And also, they wanted to build a credible and trustworthy relationship with their public. Takeaways. So the 3 takeaways that I had from this crisis were, first, maybe use Facebook Live or just a live video stream in general. It definitely felt more personal for the customers, and even though I would never think to use Facebook Live or any live stream, it was extremely beneficial to them. The second takeaway is to always reply and respond to individual customer complaints, questions, or concerns. Southwest failed to do this, which brought a lot of uproar. They would reply to a few, but not all, and out of all the thousands of comments that they received, they only replied to 39. Lastly, the last takeaway is being fast is extremely important for situations like this. When the crisis originally happened, Southwest took only a few hours to address the problem and start making a plan. This made the customers feel like they cared. So in our textbook that we read through this whole semester, social media, chapter 4 really stood out to me, and when I read this crisis, I immediately thought of it. So Southwest showed a few of the social media characteristics from this chapter. They showed authenticity by being so personal and consistent between communication and action. The airline showed transparency as well, when they were fully honest and open to the public. Trust and reputation depend on an increased transparency on an organization, which has shown through the interactions between Southwest and the people through social media. Since social media is so fast, it is a great characteristic to follow, which is what Southwest did. They were extremely fast, which amplified the organization's reach to their public audience. The organization also heavily participated in social media in general. That was their main source of communication. They fully engaged with their community through Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. This allowed them to build, participate, and grow communities. The customer service of Southwest was extremely important. According to the textbook, Twitter has become such an important customer service channel for many companies to respond to their customers, and that is definitely what Southwest used as their main source social media platform. The company used media relations in multiple ways. They fully updated their customers, maintained relationships, and talked the audience through social media. Southwest reacted to their crisis on social media, and although it could be challenging, they did it the right way. The textbook makes a good point that the words alone through social media communication cannot fix the bigger problems. Words must match the actions, which is what they did. They fully matched their words with their actions. And that's all. Thank you.